So what I hear you saying is the doctor himself is still paying his own student loans.
Exactly.
Now he has several children in college who are also getting student loans.
Right.
And he's also getting Parent Plus loans.
Correct.
So he's going to be paying his own student loans from when he was in undergrad in medical school, and his children too.
Right.
And you can never get out of that debt.
Never.
Hello, everybody. I'm super excited to welcome you to another episode of the Thank Me Later podcast with me, your host, Jini, where we will help you master your money and ultimately transform your life. So listen, lots of things that I like to talk about when it comes to money, but when it comes to financial aid, when it comes to student loans, as long as we have had the Thank Me Later community, this is one of our, probably in our top 2 most popular topics. And so certainly happy to talk about it. And I know the impact that it has had on our community. We have our special guest who I consider a friend, but I also consider her probably one of the foremost authorities on the financial aid process is my dear friend, Lenora Jackson. How are you, Lenora?
I'm doing well, Jini. Glad to be here.
Happy that you are back, and just like to brag about you for a minute. So Lenora recently retired after 30 years of being the executive director of financial aid at Spelman College. And that means a lot to me, not just because it's Spelman. I used to teach at Spelman. Spelman means a lot to me, but also because of your commitment to students and our community. So I just wanted to say thank you for all that you've done for all these young people all these years, and thank you for being a resource for us.
Thank you.
So now what's interesting as we were getting ready to record this segment, all the conversations that we were kind of having in the background, you know, I kind of had in my head the direction that I wanted to go. And then all the team that y'all don't see on camera, everyone started kind of chiming in. So I do have some questions, but then we're going to get them engaged so they can kind of share their stories because, you know, we have some real problems within the Black community in the context of financial aid, student loans in particular, and how we're directing our students when it comes to the schools that they are choosing to attend, whether they can afford it or not.
Absolutely.
And just want to give a couple statistics, and please feel free to chime in here. Tuition and fees at private universities has jumped over 132% in the last 20 years. I don't know what has grown 132%. Average college cost for private schools now is about $42,000. In-state public is about almost $11,000. We have to be really proactive based on the financial investment, Lenora, that it takes to get through college. I remember when I went to North Carolina A&T undergrad, I think like freshman year was 1987. My tuition was not even $5,000 a year. Wow. Right? So now that Spelman is almost what, 50,000?
Almost 50,000.
Okay, that is and obviously we're not comparing, you know, apples to apples. A&T is a public institution, not private. I can't believe college costs that much,
and it's going to continue to rise.
Oh my God, that's kind of so. What are some of those discussions like when you're talking to parents? You know, parents or their student has this idea, this dream of attending, whether it's Spelman or some other school, and you know that the math is not mathing, meaning they cannot afford the commitment. How are you advising families? Like, how are you having some of these discussions with people?
So one of the things that we did, we really had to take a look at, really have a conversation to get people, parents in particular, to look at, can you really afford this without saying those words? Because our goal was to make sure that if students came in, that they also went out as a graduate student, graduating senior.
Right.
So it's okay to get the numbers in the door.
Right.
But what Spelman's goal is, with 77% graduation rate, which is extremely high, Spelman wants 100% graduation rate. And with 100% graduation rate, you have to have people coming in who can, afford or have the means or can put their hands on the money to pay for school without their students being so deep in debt. And sadly, we have a lot of debt. Parents have a lot of debt sending their students to Spelman. And we're trying to change that landscape to get parents to make more realistic decisions about helping their students find the right school financial fit.
Right.
And so we're no longer talking about, is this a social fit, an academic fit? We're now more talking about, is this a good financial fit for your family? It's not just for your student, but for the family.
And Lenora, when I hear you say that, I just feel as an adult and as a parent, like we need to be starting with the financial fit first and then figuring out the social fit and all the other fits.
Yes.
Because to me, if that part doesn't work, how can anything else work?
So it can't. And let me just say this. So when a student is applying for school, a lot of times you haven't looked at the financial fit yet. So you generally are going to look at that financial fit after that student gets that award letter, telling them how much money they're going to receive to help pay for school. That's when they start looking at the financial fit. It may be a little late.
Right.
Financial fit should be discussed freshman year, sophomore year, junior year. What can we do?
You're talking about of high school.
High school.
Okay.
High school, before they ever get to a senior in high school, how are we going to pay for school? And it does make a difference in families having financial discussions long before students get to be seniors.
Before they're applying.
Yes.
And I've noticed it on both sides, and I'm sure you have too. I've seen students who have fallen in love with certain schools.
Yes.
I have seen parents who have a vision for their children and like, no matter what, I want my child to attend here. Again, not doing any math, not trying to see if it's a financial fit. Have you been able to advise parents or students who have already kind of made that emotional decision prior to making the financial decision?
So, yes.
Okay.
And no.
Okay.
So when you ask, have I been able to advise? The answer is definitely yes. And, it's not just about talking about it. It's putting it on paper.
On paper, right.
So so it's right in front of you. You can see the numbers. And what does that look like? How many more students do you have to put in school? Because it's not just about this one.
Yeah, who else is coming?
Who else is coming behind this student?
Right.
And sometimes they're twins.
Right.
And sometimes they're a boy and a girl twin.
Right.
So the young man's going to want to go to Morehouse, student at Spelman. You're looking at basically $100,000
a year
for 1 year.
I just need to kind of stop and think about that right there. I'm like, I mathematically can't even understand that.
Absolutely.
Just to think about $100,000 a year for undergrad. Undergrad?
For undergrad, and we're talking about 1 year.
Oh, my God.
Not 4 years.
Oh, my gosh. One thing that I learned several years ago, you remember Desiree Robinson, who's helped us a lot within the Thank Me Later community with scholarships. She would have her children create a vision board with the schools that they wanted to go to. On the vision board, you couldn't just cut out the cute pictures. You had to put the cost of tuition and then multiply it by 4.
Absolutely.
So now everybody understood the level of work that they had to do to get the scholarships to cover 4 years, not just 1 year. I see a lot of parents with this year-to-year strategy, and I know you're very familiar with this. When I see parents do that, now their backs are up against the wall, and they will do anything to keep that student in school, which ends up equaling more student loans or more Parent Plus loans.
Correct. Can
you kind of speak to the commitment that parents are making that decision, particularly the Parent Plus loans, and the impact that it has on their quality of life and ultimately retirement too?
Yes. I really don't think that people understand what it takes to pay back student loans. It is not like a car loan.
Okay.
The interest accrues because there's a certain period of time that students aren't paying any interest. Then if they can have those loans deferred. The thing about it is parents can have PLUS loans deferred now. They don't have to start paying it back right away. So when you defer your loans, meaning you're not paying right now, but the interest is accruing, and then it's capitalized.
Which means adding up. Interest is accruing, y'all, which means it is adding up.
It's adding up.
Yes.
So it's interest on top of interest. So if it's $20 interest this month, and your bill is $400. So you're $420 in debt. But next month the interest is going to be calculated on $420 opposed to $400. So it just compounds. And so at the end of the day, it's going to take this parent a long time to pay this loan back. And what parents don't realize, they don't think about, if you're in your 30s, well, would you have someone going? Well, you could.
Right.
Say 40.
In your 40s.
You have a student going to college.
Right.
So you may have 25 years before you plan to retire. You don't think about 65 being as close as it is. But if you're still paying that loan 25 years, now you're reducing your monthly income because you're in retirement, but you still have to pay that student loan.
I can't fathom taking 25 years to pay for something that took 4 to 5 years to accumulate. Like, that's like paying on a car for like 25 years.
Forever.
Yeah, forever.
Forever. And the problem is this. Sometimes why it takes so long, students and or parents will do income-based repayment.
Right.
So income for students is maybe low when they get out of school.
Sure.
So they're paying less,
right.
But interest is still accruing.
And so they're happy to have those little bitty, teeny tiny payments. And they're like, ooh, that's good. I don't have to pay.
Exactly.
Not realizing that.
The interest is accruing, and it's going to take that much longer to pay it back. So you may now, and can I give you a story about
Please, absolutely.
I have a parent who is a medical doctor.
Okay.
2 sons went to Morehouse. 1 went to Spelman. And he has his own practice, a lot of equipment. He has deferred his student loans, and he has deferred parent loans because of the business. So daughter came to Spelman, and he's still in deferment for student loans, his own, and he is still paying. And let me tell you, student loans are something you can't write off for.
Right. So I just want to stop. So what I hear you saying is the doctor himself is still paying his own student loans.
Exactly.
Now he has several children in college who are also getting student loans.
Right.
And he's also getting Parent Plus loans.
Correct.
So he's going to be paying his own student loans from when he was in undergrad in medical school and his children too.
Right.
And you can never get out of that debt.
Never. You cannot file bankruptcy and get rid of it. It's with you till you go to the grave.
Yeah. So at this point, I wanted to bring in my husband, David, because we've had a recent family situation, and when you talk about this, and I wanted to share this story so we could hopefully, David, help some other folks. So can you share what's going on with Lenora and let her weigh in on it?
I'll just say a young man.
Yes.
There's a young man that went off to school in HBCU. Financially, probably should not have. One parent felt as if he should stay home and go to in-state because that's kind of where the budget was. One parent kind of thought he should go off there. Had a great year, very, very intelligent young man, but the money started getting crazy, so he had to start working and going to school. Obviously, that's hard to do. Put himself in a position where he had to come sit out a semester, not because of grades, kind of just because it was a lot on him. But now he's got this debt that he can't pay back because he doesn't have a degree. He's working an average job. So he's kind of stuck, whereas he can't go back there because they
He
want
owes
that
them
money.
money.
Yeah, he owes them money.
Right, the school.
It is just a really and the kid is really down now, but he's really in a bad position, and it breaks my heart.
Yeah. And I'm David, thank you for sharing that story, because I just was thinking, back in the day, when David and I were younger, you could just kind of move on, go to another school and don't even worry about transferring those credits. And you're telling us that's not possible anymore.
Jini, he is stuck.
Oh my God.
He is stuck until he is able to pay that institution their money.
Oh God.
They will not release a transcript, because once a transcript is released, that school may or may not ever get their money. So they're not going to release a transcript, no matter where he goes, where he tries to go. The question on any application, have you been in school before? He can't lie. He has to say yes.
Right.
And because there's a national database, if he's gotten any type of financial aid, that is in the system. Schools will know you've been somewhere else.
Right.
And so therefore, once the admission office knows that you've been to school somewhere, you have to produce a transcript. He can't get that transcript to go somewhere else until he has paid that debt back. And what advice would I give a parent at this point?
Yes.
I would say if there is a way to borrow that money and pay the institution back, they have to help him get unstuck so that he can finish his education. And if that means coming home, going to a state school,
Right.
so that he can move on with his life and make a deal with this student that if he can come home, not have debt, that when he is out of school on his feet, that debt becomes his debt.
Right.
And I think that as a parent, when you help make a decision that is not a good financial decision, that is your responsibility to help him get out of that debt. And that's the only thing I would offer at this point is help him get the debt paid back to the school.
And when I hear that, David and Lenora, it also makes me feel this semester by semester strategy to pay for college does not work. You have to have a strategy to get through these 4 years, or you run the risk of a student having to leave school because you're chasing a dream versus saying stay in state, go to a cheaper school, start at a 2-year school, whatever you have to do, because the goal really is an education, not having a degree at this particular school because it makes you feel good.
Yes. And Jini, it is probably a I don't want to say it's a racial kind of thing where we think certain things about what our students should be able to do.
Right.
We want our students to go where they want to go, and I think we should.
Absolutely.
I think they should be able to go where they want to go. But then you have to sit down and add up the cost.
Provided you all can afford it.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure parents think about this. Parents may want to buy a Mercedes.
Right.
But they know that they can't make that payment or they can't keep up the maintenance.
Right.
So they don't go and do it.
They don't even go to the dealership.
They don't even go to the dealership.
Right.
So you have to start that process
Right.
with that in mind as
Right.
well. You're not going to go out and buy $1 million house that you can't pay the taxes on.
Right.
You can't keep up the mortgage on.
Right.
So parents are already familiar with making
The
those
concept.
kinds of decisions.
Right.
And so that's how you have to approach college with your students as well.
Right.
Because it's a family decision.
Right.
It's not a student's decision.
It isn't, right.
When they have to rely on you
Right.
to help pay.
That's why they're children and we're adults.
That's right.
Right.
And at 17, 18 years old,
Yeah.
The law may say at 18 they're an adult.
Yeah, but they're
But
not.
clearly they are not.
Right.
They don't have the wherewithal to write a check and pay for school.
Before we go to our hotline call, I just wanted to share a personal story. Both of our children have already finished school. Our oldest son, Trevor, went to North Carolina A&T. Our youngest son, Cameron, graduated from Clemson. And people always think Trevor went to A&T because I went to A&T. And I'm like, no, he went to A&T because that's where he got a scholarship to go to school. I wanted him to go to Hampton. Mm-hmm. He had gone to Hampton summer program. I drunk the water, but, believed it, wanted him to go there. Hampton, they were not giving him any money, Hampton is off the list. But I think David and I did a really good job of, when our kids were very young, setting the expectation, we're going where you're going, wherever you get money to go. So it wasn't punishment.
Right.
I think everyone had just kind of settled into this is just how it is. It's just business. Instead of selling this dream, and I want our parents to stop selling our children dreams, and from a very young age, talk to them. We're going to go, just like you said, if you can't afford a Range Rover, you're not at the Range Rover dealership. You need to be at the Honda dealership. Right. Nothing wrong with a Honda.
Absolutely.
You go where you can afford it, and let's teach our kids the right thing. I want to go to our Thank Me Later hotline. I know we have a call for you.
Okay.
Hi, Jini. I have 7 nephews, and my oldest nephew is in the 12th grade. My brothers will need a lot of guidance with the financial aid process. For people who are new to the FAFSA process, who completes the FAFSA, the student or the parent?
That's a very good question. It's really the student. And let me tell you why the student should do it. I say the student do it with the parent sitting with them.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that is a lot of times when parents are doing it, there's a question that asks for the Social Security number. Because parents are so used to writing their own Social Security number, they're not thinking about this should be the student's. They'll key in their own. They'll key in information about themselves opposed to the information being about the student. Let the student get used to doing it. And that way you're there to correct anything they do wrong. But then each year when it's due, that student's in school. When it comes due, they know to go out there, complete it. They know what to do if they have to ask their parents for some information. But it's really important that the student complete the FAFSA with the parents' input, especially that first go round.
Now, I always hear all the stories about certain, parents aren't together. One parent does not want their information on it, or the mom has remarried and now new husband doesn't want his information on it. Like, what has to happen? Not what people want to happen. Because I feel like people think that they can choose,
yes,
but you really can't, and
right,
you're really penalizing the student.
Right.
What parents' financial information must be included on that FAFSA?
So first, let me say, it's not a decision they can make. The decision is made by the federal government.
Okay.
And the rules are set. So if the student lives with, say, the mom has been divorced and now she's remarried. So it's a joint income, even though the mother says, well, this is my child. It's not. But it's about the income in the household.
The entire household. Right.
It's not so much about whose income. It's the income that comes into that household that has to be used to determine how the financial aid is going to be determined for that student. So in divorce households where neither parent has remarried, if that student lives with mom, it should just be her income. Now, there are some schools, and depends on where you're going, they want to know what that outside parent's income is, and they do that for their institutional aid, not for federal aid.
Okay.
But you're going to have to give up parent information that lives outside of the household as well. So in deciding where your child's going to go to school, those are considerations you want to make. Do I remarry right now? I'm making $20,000, but my husband, or my new potential husband, is making $150,000. Could we hold off getting married for a couple of years to get my child out of college? Because if I use my income, they're going to qualify for some federal aid.
Okay.
If I have to use both incomes, the federal aid they qualify for may just be student loans. And it depends on when you're getting married. Of course, if you married this person, your child was 3 years old,
right,
that's different. But if they're a senior in high school,
right, you might want to wait.
You might want to wait.
Right.
Is it beneficial for you to wait? Unless you're marrying someone who says, listen, I'm in for the long haul.
Right.
I'm taking this on.
Right.
And that's a conversation. It may sound silly to ask that question,
right,
but you really have to know when you marry, you're marrying the entire family.
Right.
And that child becomes your child as well.
Right.
So,
yeah. Thank you for addressing that, because it's funny to me when people think that they can choose what they're going to do, knowing that the federal government or the U.S. Department of Education, whomever, they have set the rules.
Yes.
And we can't freestyle and make our own rules.
You cannot make your own rules, unfortunately. And if we could make our own rules, just think of what rules we would make.
Right.
We would always make them beneficial for us.
No question.
I don't even want to put my parents' income on it at all.
Absolutely zero. Yeah.
Yes.
I raised myself. I'm not going to get any help. Certain people want
Exactly.
as much aid as humanly possible.
Absolutely.
Or understandable. So before we were getting ready for this session, we were having some discussion with a couple of the producers in the room. So Chris was honest enough. He was talking about them good old refund checks. I know you hear this all the time. Is this even from your side? Because you're obviously back office, financial aid. Do you all know what the kids are doing with this money when they get the refund checks?
Absolutely. Absolutely. They're doing the same thing they were doing 20 years ago.
So Chris, what were you doing with your refund check?
20 years ago, we were at the mall tearing it down and building it back up again.
And so did your mother know you were getting a refund check?
She may or may not have, honestly.
Okay.
But I spent it too fast for her to even realize that I received it.
And so obviously you've had some time to reflect and mature. Is there anything anybody could have said to your 19-year-old self for you to use that money differently?
Possibly. Maybe not, maybe I wouldn't have gotten 2 pair of those Jordans every time. Maybe just one.
One pair. Okay.
Yeah, maybe just one pair. But my mom would give me a little bit of advice. But when you're 19, 20, my mom sounded like the teacher from Charlie Brown at that point.
Yeah.
I would have needed someone else that I looked up to. Maybe that's a father figure or a mentor figure.
Right.
And then maybe I would have given them a little bit more attention to the advice for sure.
Okay. Now, at what point did you have the major revelation about the financial commitment you made getting loans? At what point did you think you really understood what you signed up for?
After about my 3rd university. I think that's when I figured it out. That's when it hit me.
Right. And so walk us through that. So like what was the revelation? What happened?
So my mom, she told me to please just call I've been dodging the phone calls.
Okay, so you've been ducking and diving.
Yeah, I'm dying like the Matrix.
Out here in these streets, right.
Absolutely.
Right.
And so she finally talked me into just giving them a call and having a straight up talk with them, telling them about your situation, XYZ. And then when I did that and I started to really pay attention to the fine print that they were reading over the phone real fast.
Right.
I started to listen and I kind of caught a few things and I asked for clarity and then they would tell me. And then that's when it started to click that I was paying way more than I was initially borrowing. That's when interest started to really hit and how it snowballs and accrues and things of that nature. I started to get the rules of it then when I started to pay attention when I asked more questions.
Right. And again, I'm going to ask you the question, is there anything that your 19-year-old self, is there something someone could have told you to explain this whole interest payment? Like, is there anything that would have clicked?
I think so. If they would have explained it in terms of things that I was interested in, you would have had to explain it in the terms of, I know we're laughing and joking about the sneakers, but I really was going and buying sneakers with those checks.
Right.
If someone would have explained it in maybe those terms, I probably would have clicked because that was just what I was into at the time.
Okay.
So if you can relate it to that, something that your kids are into to make it click, and instead of paying $150, I'm really paying $400, I just don't know it, maybe that it would have hit.
Okay. Because then it'd be like, wait.
Yeah, whoa. Yeah, they nice, but they not, $400 nice, for sure.
Right. Thank you for sharing your story. Courtney, I'm going to go ahead and loop you on in right now, too. Yeah. So Courtney is our social media manager. And so you were very honest about what you owed and what you owe now. How did you get up to your number? Because your highest point you owed about what?
It was close to 110.
Wow.
Yeah. And I don't know how I got here. My parents did everything. And so the realization came when my mom passed and she had all the documents and I didn't know anything that was going on and it was time to pay. My year was up. And then I really realized I had put myself in this position because I got a partial scholarship to UNC Chapel Hill for journalism, but I hated everything about North Carolina. but I had to be at George Mason. And with that, they were not giving out any scholarship money.
Yeah.
And I was in the honors college. Everything was just twice as expensive as if I were with the regular freshmen.
Right.
And so that's when I realized good old 2017 was the year.
And tell us about your journey paying it down, because and just congrats, because you were at that almost 110. Now you're down to
it's about 54.
Okay.
Last time I checked.
And how did you do that? Because I know a lot of people won't even approach it because they are just, the burden. They're like, the number's too big. Whatever I pay is not even going to matter.
Yeah. I think for me was, like Chris said, making sure that you are speaking to that other person on the phone and finding out what your options are. And so after expressing everything to them, they put me on the income-based repayment plan initially. And I just always said to myself, just pay $100 more. And if you can, pay $200 more. And so that's really how I did it, was when I got into a financial position to where I could pay more than what the minimum balance was, I made sure that I either doubled that just because I knew I would be paying on the principal.
Right.
I love that. And that's a huge, thank you, Chris and Courtney, for sharing. And I think it's really important that we have to tell our stories and we have to tell the truth, because that's how we can help the students in college now or the young people who are coming up not to make the same mistakes. I'm really concerned about this, Lenora, in the context of this cap of student loans has been removed. Can you explain that, what that means?
Well, I think what's happening is students aren't finishing college at a rate that federal government thought. They usually give students like 5 to 6 years. It's a 6-year graduation rate that most schools use to determine what their graduation rate is. So if they're not finishing, they want more students out of college. So the $150,000 cap was for 4 years of undergraduate school. Or however long it took you to get to 150,000.
Okay.
But now it's been removed, so that means if it's going to take you 10 years to get that undergraduate degree, you can continue to borrow money, putting yourself deeper in debt. And so what I would say, Jini, is, and this is what I've run into with a lot of parents, that I do have quite a few parents who are telling their students no loans, no debt. And students saying, I don't want any debt.
Absolutely.
So they're coming in, they're asking for more free money, more scholarship money, and looking for more and they're being more proactive.
Love that.
And so when a parent says, we're not doing any loans, we don't want any loans, it's kind of hard when you have that student who doesn't want any loans, and then I have this student over here who has all this debt. Am I going to help the student try to reduce their debt by giving them the scholarship opposed to the student who hasn't tried to help themselves? And that then becomes a dilemma for a financial aid office.
Right. And so everybody, I want you to hear what Lenora is saying. It's almost unbelievable. That's why I'm having a problem processing it. That the federal government used to have this cap that you could not borrow. You could not have more than $150,000 in student loan debt. Now they're saying the cap is completely gone. For your undergraduate degree, you can borrow $300,000. You can borrow whatever. You can take as long as you want. That is a formula for a disaster.
It is.
And people are going to unconsciously keep borrowing, just kind of kicking the can down the road.
Yes. And so what it's going to do is have an impact on the lives the kind of life that they can live.
For sure.
Once they get out of school.
Absolutely.
Are they going to be able to buy a house?
Yeah, no.
Are they going to be able to buy a new car?
No.
Are they going to be able to do, once they are, they get married and have children?
Are they going to be able to move out?
Well,
yeah.
Parents, you need to think about that.
Yeah, absolutely. How are they going to move out?
They won't be able to.
No, they won't be able to. Everybody, I want to share a few resources with you all as we're progressing with this conversation with our subject matter expert, Lenora Jackson, today. Again, please make sure you are leaning into your college's website. Very important that you're learning about all the scholarship deadlines, forms, all of that stuff. Studentaid.gov, that is your primary resource. You should never be paying to complete the FAFSA.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of scam BS stuff out there.
Oh, absolutely.
You have to be really smart about it. So again, studentaid.gov. You can certainly check in with us us at thankmelatermoney.com. Again, thankmelatermoney.com. We have a ton of resources related to a scholarship tracker, previous interviews with Lenora Jackson, because you have to do your work. You know, I understand parents get tired of parenting. And they're like, I just want this kid to leave, not understanding the work that it takes to get through college and to get college paid for.
Absolutely.
It's easy to get in.
Oh,
now.
yeah.
Yeah. You don't even have to be that strong academically. You are absolutely going to get in, getting college paid for. Another thing that you just said, and David, I want you to chime back in about this. You talked about families that have made a commitment about no student loans.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing I think David and I were on the same page about when our children were in high school. You know, we had the talk. We are not co-signing on anything.
Mm-hmm.
We're not getting not one single Parent Plus loan. So let's kind of talk about what your options are. You know, academic, you can play sports.
Mm-hmm.
You could go to community college. You can go to Harvard. You can go to Howard. You could do whatever. But this is where our help starts and stops. David, can you kind of talk about that? Because I know it wasn't a hard conversation for us, but it seems to be a hard conversation for parents, just kind of guiding parents on being able to have that talk and that commitment.
Yeah, I think in the end, we were aware of student loan debt. We were aware that we weren't taking on that other debt.
Not a dime.
My mom told me when I was young, I'm not co-signing for anything.
Right.
So I understood. Once I got older, I understood that. So we kind of went in with the same thing. And we were blessed enough to pay for our kids' school up to that point. So we're paying for, we're investing in you now.
Your private school education.
So that you can be in position to do that,
Right.
you know, either through academic or with my youngest son, he was blessed enough to athletically be able to cover school. So that worked out. But yeah, that was a part of the conversation early. So they were aware, you're going to school.
Right.
Where you go is kind of up to you. And we need to figure that out before that happens. So I think that's an important conversation that parents should have early if that's their goal for their children.
Right.
And I appreciate that because it sets some boundaries. And
Yeah.
David, I forgot about that because both of our kids did go to private school. We're like, you're getting your money now. You can't get the money later too.
Right. Exactly.
So we're making the investment now. And I'm like, these parents who are paying all this money for private school and you're getting ready to pay for college.
Yes.
Now, if you're wealthy, ultra wealthy, and you can write the check,
Absolutely.
live your best life, write the check. For the rest of you who it's impacting your life, it is not worth it. Find a school that is within your budget.
Right.
And we do. You will thank us later, you know, when you make the decision to find a school that you can financially afford because it will be a right fit. And then you don't have the stress 20 years later. I have a really good friend. She's actually going to retire this year. Principal, could have retired probably about 6 years ago. She couldn't because of her Parent Plus loans.
Mm.
So she'd been a principal for years. So you think highest that you can go income wise, did very, very well for herself. Neither one of her children graduated from college. So she's paying Parent Plus loans for two kids who never got their degree. Never got their degree. So you have to sit with that.
You do.
You have to sit with that. And so I'm just so happy now that she's actually getting ready to retire. But I know so many people who can't, and their Parent Plus loans are a really, really big part of that.
Yeah.
You know, that's a tragedy for sure.
It is a tragedy. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, we have too many parents who, there's a lot of first-year college students.
It's
first
interesting
generation.
that still happens. We just think that we're past that.
First-generation college students.
Right.
And so parents are living through their
The
student.
dream. Yeah.
And they want this school for their child.
Right.
And they don't think about the impact that it's going to have on them later.
Right.
There are those parents who do. They come in, I don't want any loans.
Right.
She needs scholarship money. She's done well. He's done well. We need free money, free money, free money. And it is the best way to go to school. It's the only way, really,
Yes.
to go to school. If you can come out of undergrad debt-free, and, you know, I have two granddaughters who, one will graduate Spelman next year,
Right.
and one that's in third year of med school.
Right.
She finished, both of them will finish undergrad with zero debt.
Right.
And I felt like being in a position that if my grandchildren were coming
Right.
and I'm sitting at the desk,
Right.
not that I could give them the money,
Right.
because, but I knew where all the money was, and
sure.
they had to find the money
Right.
to be able to go to school free.
Absolutely.
And I think that all parents and students, there's too much money out there. There's
Right.
too many schools that they have options to go to that are within budget.
Right. And that should not be the exception, but it should be the rule.
It should be the rule.
Last story I want to share, Tiana, who's part of our
Right.
team. She was a Gates Millennial Scholar. So she went to Howard 4 years
Mm-hmm.
for free, graduated with zero debt.
Yes.
And I'm like, why can't she be the norm versus the exception? I'm so proud of her. She's the only Gates Millennial Scholar that I know. She always says, thank you, Uncle Bill Gates, for the money. But why is she the exception and not the rule?
Well, Bill Gates did a lot for students.
Yeah.
I have a cousin who finished Spelman, Bill Gates, and
Right.
she finished her master's and PhD
Wow.
with no debt.
Right.
And the thing about it is that, of course, Gates is not doing that now, but there's too many wealthy people
Right.
in this country that need to give more money
Right.
so that these students can go.
So they can have an opportunity.
Yes. So,
Any other resources that you think we need to really share with people in the context of, obviously we've focused on studentaid.gov, school websites, anything else that you think could help people navigate this process?
well, of course, Jini, we know that federal dollars are not going to do it to pay for school. So
Thank you for saying that.
Yes, it's just not going to be enough. Even at the state level, it's not going to be enough. And so students really have to start the process of looking for scholarships early. And so if you're at a private institution or planning to go to a private school, I would definitely say look at uncf.org. And if you're going to go to public school, look at thurgoodmarshall.org. Those are two organizations. Money is constantly coming into those organizations. So it's a constant thing.
Right.
And especially for that parent and student who really has not figured it out.
Right.
They have to constantly be looking for money. And I don't think that's ever going to stop, Jini. We're going to have families that are going to go to school and they haven't quite figured it out. But we don't mind helping, but we need students and parents to understand what they've gotten themselves into and continue to look for outside help. Church, sorority, fraternities, wherever you can find, any organization that's given away money, students have to apply. And if they can find renewable dollars,
Right.
is the most important way to go. We have students that came in, they were getting outside money, $25,000 a year. Now, if you're getting that kind of money, I think parents can figure out the rest, but you have to have a substantial amount of dollars that if you're going to make that commitment of a $50,000 a year goal.
And parents, I want you to know it's work.
It's
There's
work.
no shortcut to
No.
finding scholarship money. It's work. It's going to take months.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to take a lot of organization, a lot of essays, a lot of applications, but the payoff on the back end is so worth it. So settle in and get ready to do the work.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And when you can sit there and watch your student go across that stage, getting their degree and they're debt-free.
Debt-free, yeah.
That is, and Jini, what I will say is that my motto is if an undergraduate student can come out of school $19,000 or less in student loan debt, I think that is a reasonable amount of debt. That's all subsidized loan for 4 years.
Okay. So that's the goal. Lenora has just set the standard, everybody. You should be $19,000 or less for 4 years, not 1 year.
Yes.
4 years for your education. Thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
being here with us again today. And thank you for being a champion for our community and for financial aid. And I know Spelman is missing you over there after your 30 years of service.
Well, let me tell you what I miss about Spelman. I miss the parents and I miss the students because I felt like it was really my job, my ministry,
Your calling.
my calling to really try to ensure that not just students coming in the AU Center, but if they were going to a North Carolina A&T
Right.
or they're going to some other school, that I always became the aunt of that student. So I'm going to call for anybody. I meet people in the grocery store. I see a mother with a shirt on, and I say, oh, where's your child going to school? Are they still in school? Oh, would you like me to call for them?
Right.
So that's the kind of advocate I've been for our community and our students, to try to get them as much money, free money, as I can, to ensure when they come out of school, they can move out of their parents' house because they don't have so much debt.
What I know for sure, if people listen to the podcast, they will certainly thank you later.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I know that they will. So next steps, everybody, as we get ready to wrap up, please make sure that you are scheduling some intentional time to not only get familiar with the FAFSA, but also to schedule some time to have the talk with your family.
Yes.
And what I mean by that talk, I mean, what can we afford? What is not our one semester strategy, what is our 4-year strategy to get through school with maximum $19,000 in student loans? Now we have a new guide. We don't have to worry about what the Department of Ed says about the cap. We have now created our own cap. Please make sure you do that. Don't forget to please go to our website, thankmelatermoney.com, for our scholarship tracker, resources, tools, previous interviews with Lenora Jackson. So again, thank you again for sharing your time and wisdom with us. And you all stay connected. Now listen, I done told y'all before, Lenora is not sharing her social media. Y'all cannot track her down, but you can certainly submit your financial aid questions to us. So you can engage with us on social media at TML Money, and also with me personally, Jini Thornton, JiniThornton. Thank you for tuning in to the Thank Me Later podcast with Jini, where we're going to help you master your money and transform your life. We'll see you next time.